Hello, my name is Rosalind Alexander and I'm a student of the School of Exercise and Sports Science at the Central Queensland University. Today I'm going to present research data on a study around the effect of placebo on strength and endurance in college-aged men. This is part of the assessment due for ESSC12007, Applied Exercise and Sports Psychology. A bit of background on placebo effect. Traditionally, most studies have incorporated a placebo trial as a component of a larger study around some other subject. Only recently, though, has placebo been specifically studied in relation to sports and exercise performance. The results thus far are reasonably wide-ranging, from a highly effective response from placebo through to no response at all. A few studies that I've highlighted here that are of note are firstly Haug's study in 2011, which was more of a psychological study that investigated the psychological drivers behind placebo effect and preconditioning. His paper centred around the fact that mere simulation of a therapy can produce effects similar to those produced by the therapy itself. And it was further supported by Barg, Chen and Burrows' paper of 1996 when they studied the automaticity of social behaviour, and the placebo response was explained as a product of classical conditioning. A little more relevant to the sport and exercise field was the second note that I have here, the Kalasuntas study and also the Manganara study. Both of them identified significant increases in strength performance as a result of ingesting a substance which had no inherent ability to produce such a positive effect. The studies focused on, firstly, the maximal force production, and secondly, the Manganara study was strength gains through what test participants perceived was an anabolic steroid. And as I mentioned, both studies showed improved performance and a significant difference within the placebo group. Further to this, Duncan, Lyons and Hankey 2009 study found that the perception of improved performance from a placebo resulted in greater reps during strength training. And interestingly, Manganaris and Kalasuntas went on to introduce the concept of nocebo, or the opposite to placebo, which shows significant decreases in performance when subjects were told that their improvements in weightlifting in this study were the result of a sham steroid. So, on this basis, it would be reasonable for us to assume that when a test participant is told a treatment will work, performance should improve, and conversely, when it's not effective, performance should decrease. So finally, Brazier, Sinclair and Bottom's study at the bottom here takes it to the other end of the extreme, where their analysis was using hologram wristbands and a placebo on athletic performance. Now they found in 2014 that there was no effect at all within the placebo group. However, this may be relevant to the information that we're looking at, or perhaps based on other studies and other psychological information that I've reviewed, it may have been a result of conditioning or a lack of belief in hologram wristbands as an ergogenic aid. So in light of all of these results, this study on college-aged men, strength and endurance, and the placebo effect upon that, it serves to identify whether the placebo is effective or not. Participant data is displayed here. 15 healthy male participants were selected from a volunteer group, and they're aged between 19 and 34. The demographic data is shown on this slide, as are the mean and standard deviation. Now, there are certain conditions around the study. Participants must have trained both upper and lower body in a strength training modality for at least 3 days per week for the previous 6 months. They also must have refrained from taking any ergogenic or performance-enhancing aid for 4 months prior to the trials, and during the study were asked to refrain from resistance exercise outside of the study. Okay, looking at the study design. Now, first of all, to try and eliminate any sort of preconditioning, a familiarisation session was set up, and all of them were taken through a 1 rep max bench press and squat and an 80% repetition max bench press and squat. At that time, they also signed informed consent forms and were given a 3-day food diary. Then baseline measures were taken for the same bench press and squat, and they were again given the 3-day food diary to take them through to trial 1, which was 4 days later. And they were also given a supplement, which was essentially a sugar pill, a placebo pill, and told that it was a highly powerful amino acid. Trial 1 was conducted. As per the other trials, they went through the 1 rep max bench and squat and the 80% rep max bench and squat, and were again given a food diary, asked to keep it for the next 3 days. After trial 1, they were also told that the product that they'd been given had actually been proven to be completely ineffective. They were also at the same time completing a supplement adherence sheet to ensure that they were taking it regularly and as required. The final trial, trial 2, they went through the same thing again, the bench press, squat, and 80% bench press and squat, and the results were recorded from there. The statistical analysis that was run on this information was a single factor ANOVA, which was used to assess the differences between the 1 rep max bench and squat and the 80% rep max bench and squat across the 3 groups, the baseline group, the trial 1 group, and the trial 2 group, in an effort to understand if there was any significant difference between the groups and to see if there was an effect from the placebo. Similarly, a single factor ANOVA was also used to assess differences in calories, fat, protein, and carbohydrate intake over the period of testing and across the baseline, trial 1 and trial 2 groups, just to rule out any difference or any significance related to nutritional intake rather than placebo. The values in reps are shown here for the 3 trials, including the mean and standard deviation. The results across all modes of testing, the 1 rep max bench, the 1 rep max squat, the 80% rep max bench and squat, all showed no significance in terms of the effect of the placebo. So therefore, no further investigation was made. The next stage would have been a t-test investigation between trials and the baseline to identify where the improvements or the changes had occurred. There is no significance shown throughout the study itself, the null hypothesis is accepted that the placebo does not have an effect on strength and endurance performance in college-aged males. References are attached here for your information. I thank you very much for your time, and if you have any further questions, please feel free to contact me on my university email.